She knew they'd come, but she didn't warn anyone, Harrison yelled, his voice cracking as he shielded his kids from the masked gunman. While the staff screamed and the children sobbed, Hannah didn't move. She stood still, calm, cold, calculated. But when the first shot rang out, she struck like lightning, disarming a killer in seconds. Now let's go back. Just 90 minutes earlier. Everything was normal. It was a late Friday morning at Homewood Estate, nestled deep in the lush privacy of Baltimore, Maryland. A fortress of generational wealth, elegance, and secrets. The kind of place where people whispered, not shouted, where curtains cost more than cars. Hannah Thompson, the live-in maid, moved silently through the East Wing, polishing the antique sideboards with the same focus she'd shown every day for the past 2 years. She didn't speak much, didn't joke with the other staff, didn't look for anyone's approval. But she noticed everything, like how the security guard at the front gate didn't wave at her this morning, or how the camera feed in the west corridor flickered once, twice, things no one else cared about. She remembered faces, patterns, unusual movements. It was just how her mind worked. Or maybe it was how it had been trained to work. Upstairs, Harrison Briggs, billionaire, single father of 3, and owner of Homewood Estate, sat behind his grand oak desk, scanning through a deal memo he hadn't written and barely cared about. He hadn't slept. Again. The days blurred together now. Board meetings, quarterly reports, charity dinners. But no amount of money could buy back his wife or rewind the 3 years since the accident that made him a widower and a stranger to his own children. In the hallway, his daughter Lila's laughter bounced off the marble walls. "You better run, Owen," she yelled, chasing her younger brother down the stairs. Harrison closed his eyes and rubbed his temples. He loved them. God, he did. But loving them didn't come naturally anymore. Not with the weight he carried. Not with everything he still blamed himself for. Downstairs, Hannah watched the children from the shadows of the staircase. She didn't smile, but something flickered in her eyes. A warmth. Quickly extinguished. No one knew that in less than an hour, men would storm this estate with weapons. No one but her. And she said nothing. They'll judge her for that. But they don't know her story. Not yet. And maybe, neither do you. The sound came soft at first, barely noticeable over the hum of conversation in the drawing room. A click. Then another. Harrison didn't look up from his phone. His assistant was talking about the board meeting next week, the one he had no interest in attending. But Hannah heard it. From the far end of the west hallway, tray in hand, she froze mid-step. 3 sharp clicks. Metal. Boots. Too heavy to be staff. She turned, just slightly, enough to see what the others hadn't yet. 3 masked men, dressed in black, moving with military precision, and they were already inside. By the time the first scream echoed through the estate, it was too late. The front foyer doors flew open, and one of the gunmen fired a shot into the ceiling. Glass shattered. Children screamed. A butler fell to the floor in shock. A vase, 200 years old, toppled and exploded across the marble. Chaos. "Down! Everyone down now!" the lead intruder shouted, waving his weapon. "Nobody moves unless you want to die." Harrison's world snapped into slow motion. He instinctively grabbed Lila and Owen, shielding their bodies with his own as he pushed them under the piano bench. Ella was already crying, sobbing into the carpet, terrified. He looked up, trying to find safety, control, something, and his eyes landed on her, Hannah, just standing there, calm, cold, unmoving. "Get down!" he shouted at her. She didn't flinch, didn't blink. She just set the silver tray down, gently, deliberately, and turned to face the masked man who was now pointing a Glock directly at one of the children. The gunman yelled something again, angry, confused by her stillness. Then, the first shot rang out. Before anyone could scream, Hannah moved, fast. Too fast for anyone to follow. She stepped into the shooter's line, spun, leg slicing through the air like a blade, and knocked the weapon clean out of his hand. He stumbled back. Another moved to grab her, crack. His wrist shattered in her grip before he hit the ground. The room fell into stunned silence. Even the robbers froze. Even Harrison froze. This wasn't luck. This wasn't panic. This was training. This woman, his maid, just disarmed 2 armed gunmen in under 6 seconds. No one knew what to say. And that's when he broke the silence. She knew, he shouted, pointing at her like she was the threat now. She knew they were coming, but she didn't warn anyone. Hannah's chest rose and fell, steady as ever. She didn't respond, didn't explain, just turned and faced the final gunman, the one still holding a hostage, Ella. Her voice came low, controlled, almost like a whisper. Let the girl go, or you won't leave this house breathing. The man hesitated. Then, just like the others, he ran. Silence. Glass crunched beneath Harrison's shoes as he stood. He looked at Hannah, really looked at her, not the uniform, not the title, but the way she stood, the way her hands didn't shake, the way her eyes didn't blink. And for the first time in years, Harrison Briggs was afraid of someone, not the robbers. Her. Are you still watching? Then you've already felt it, that tightness in your chest, that question in your mind. Who is Hannah? Why did she stay silent? Don't just watch from the shadows. Subscribe, be part of this story, and stay with it till the truth unfolds. For the first time since the intruders fled, there was quiet. Not peace, not calm, just quiet. The kind that sits heavy in your chest, like something unfinished, unspoken. The children were safe, huddled in their father's arms. Staff members sobbed quietly in corners. The security team finally arrived. Late, too late. Hannah stood near the broken window, watching the lawn where the robbers had escaped. Blood stained her sleeve from where one of them had tried to fight back. She didn't seem bothered, not even by the way everyone stared at her now, like she was the threat. She could have warned us, the butler muttered, shaking his head. She didn't even blink, whispered one of the nannies. Who is she? Someone asked. Upstairs, Harrison Briggs paced the hallway outside the panic room. His eldest, Lila, had finally stopped crying. Owen had fallen asleep in the corner. Ella clung to her stuffed bunny like it was life itself. He should have felt relief, but all he felt was uneasy. She knew they were coming, he repeated under his breath again and again. Her calm haunted him. What kind of maid moved like that? What kind of person stands still when a gun's pointed at a child? And why didn't she scream? Why didn't she warn anyone? He pulled up her employee file on his tablet. Name, Hannah Thompson. Hired, 2 years ago. Background check, clean, too clean. Downstairs, Hannah quietly resumed cleaning up the broken glass near the foyer. No one had asked her to. She didn't expect thanks. She didn't expect kindness. She had lived too many lives to believe in that now. But what she didn't expect was the silence, the looks, the way everyone kept their distance now, as if she'd done something wrong. Later that evening, as the sun dipped low over the Homewood estate, Harrison came to her in the service quarters. He didn't knock, just walked in, like he owned the room, which technically he did. She stood at her small dresser, folding a worn sweater. Who trained you? He asked flatly. She didn't look up. You think I did something wrong? I think, he said, stepping closer. You knew this was going to happen. You let it play out. You waited. Why? She finally met his eyes, calm, empty. Because warning you wouldn't have stopped it. How do you know that? Because I've seen men like that before, and I've seen what panic does. I did what had to be done. You're not just a maid. You're not just a father, she replied. That hit harder than he expected. He left without another word. The door shut behind him, but Hannah didn't move, didn't cry, didn't breathe. Not until she heard the faint click of his footsteps disappearing down the hall. She knew this would happen. She'd saved them. And still they'd look at her like a stranger. Maybe that's all she'd ever be. At this point, what would you do? Stay and explain, or leave before they push you out? Let me know in the comments. By morning, the Homewood estate no longer felt like a home. It felt like a crime scene. Yellow police tape stretched across the once beautiful entrance. Two detectives walked the grounds, scribbling notes and interviewing staff. Reporters gathered outside the gates, shouting questions that no one answered. Inside, the family huddled behind drawn curtains. And Hannah. She remained. She hadn't been arrested. There was no reason to. She was the hero, that's what the headline said. Maid stops robbery in billionaire's mansion. Black housekeeper takes down armed intruders. They said her name like they knew her. They didn't. Harrison hadn't spoken to her since last night. But now the lead detective, a sharp-eyed woman named Morales, sat across from him in the study. "Your maid," she said slowly, flipping through her notes. "Disarmed 3 men with military precision. You sure she doesn't have a history?" "She's been here 2 years," Harrison replied. "Never had a problem." "Did you ever ask her where she worked before that?" Silence. He hadn't. Not once. Later that afternoon, Morales asked to speak with Hannah again and requested Harrison stay for the interview. Hannah sat straight-backed in one of the velvet parlor chairs, her hands folded, her eyes steady. Harrison sat beside her, arms crossed tightly, pretending not to watch her every move. "Miss Thompson," Morales began, "you reacted in seconds. Where'd you learn to do that?" "Does it matter?" she said, not unkindly. "It does if you're a threat." Harrison flinched. Morales caught it. "Were you in the military?" Morales pressed. "No." "Law enforcement?" "No." Morales leaned back. "Then how do you explain what you did?" Hannah looked to Harrison for a moment, just a flicker, then back to Morales. "Let's just say, I wasn't always a maid." The silence that followed was heavy, not threatening, but not safe either. After the detective left, Harrison walked her out. When he returned, Hannah was still sitting there. He didn't know why he spoke. Maybe guilt, maybe curiosity. "You could have left after it happened. No one would have blamed you." She glanced up. "And go where?" "Somewhere they don't look at you like a weapon. Everywhere I go, someone does." He didn't know what to say to that. So he just stood there, watching her. And for the first time, he didn't see someone suspicious. He saw someone alone. Later that evening, with the estate under lockdown and only partial staff allowed to stay, Morales made a request. "Keep Hannah close for the next 48 hours. In case we need her, she shouldn't leave the grounds." Which meant she wasn't just staying in the estate. She'd be living inside the main house, in a guest suite, down the hall from his children, and 2 doors from Harrison's room. The forced closeness changed things. Awkward moments in the hallway, unspoken tension at breakfast, late-night footsteps echoing outside each other's doors. One night, as he passed her in the hallway, he paused. "Why didn't you tell me who you really were?" She turned, holding a cup of tea. "Because no one ever asks. They only assume." He didn't respond, but he didn't walk away either. For the first time, he wasn't afraid of her. He was curious. The next morning, Harrison woke up before dawn. He hadn't planned to. He just couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw it. Hannah standing still in a room full of screams. Her calm, her precision, her silence. It gnawed at him. Not because she had done anything wrong, but because she'd done everything right, and no one understood why. He found himself walking the halls of the estate like a ghost. The walls felt different now, smaller, older, louder. Downstairs in the sunroom, a single lamp glowed. Hannah sat at the window, wrapped in a blanket, sipping tea. Fully awake, eyes scanning the empty lawn like she was still watching for threats. He didn't announce himself, just stood there. "Couldn't sleep?" she asked, not turning. "Didn't want to," he replied. She took another sip. "It's always like that after something like this. Your body's still in the fight." "How do you know that?" he asked. She looked at him now. "Because I've had a lot of fights." There was silence between them. But it wasn't cold anymore. It felt open, like space being made. "Where were you before this?" he asked. "Do you really want to know?" He nodded slowly. "Afghanistan," she said. 2014. Not enlisted, not official. "Contract?" Something like that. She stood, moved to the window. My brother was in the army. Got blown apart by an IED, no flag, no funeral, nothing but a letter. So I went looking for something that made sense of it. Instead, I got pulled into a private defense group, trained, paid, broken. She said it without tears, but Harrison felt the weight. I left when a mission went bad, real bad. They tried to make me disappear. I disappeared myself instead. Baltimore. Eventually, changed my name. Took the first job that didn't ask too many questions. Mine? She nodded. He sat down in the chair across from her. You were protecting us before the robbery even started, weren't you? I saw signs, small things. Too small to prove, but enough to prepare. Why didn't you warn me? Because I didn't know if I'd be believed, or if the danger was worse than the silence. He looked at her now, really looked. Not as a maid, not as a mystery, but as a woman who had been to hell and come back without complaint. You saved my children, he said softly. They reminded me of what I lost, she whispered. And just like that, something shifted. Not love, not yet, but recognition of pain, of sacrifice, of being tired of hiding. The next day, Morales returned with questions, not about the robbery, about Hannah. Her background's clean, but too clean, Morales said. If there's something you know, something she told you, now's the time to speak up. Harrison looked out the window where Hannah was in the garden, helping Lila untangle her kite from a tree. She's not who I thought she was, he said. Then why let her stay? Because sometimes the people who scare you are the ones who've already saved you. You ever meet someone who carries more than they show? Someone who hides their pain behind silence? If Hannah's story is pulling you in, you know what to do. Subscribe. Don't just watch her unfold, walk with her through what comes next. The media storm around Homewood Estate started to die down. The headlines faded, the reporters moved on, but inside the mansion, something stayed. Hannah hadn't left, and Harrison hadn't asked her to. There were still questions, still things unsaid, but no more fear. Not between them. One afternoon, Harrison found her in the kitchen. She was standing at the counter, sleeves rolled up, peeling apples for the kids' pie. You cook too? He asked. When I can't sleep, she said. He smiled. That's kind of the opposite of what I do when I can't sleep. Which is, pour whiskey and try not to remember anything. She looked at him for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, she smiled too. Yeah, I used to do that. That night, the kids invited her to movie night in the den. Harrison watched from the doorway as Ella curled up in Hannah's lap, like she belonged there. Owen fell asleep with his head on her shoulder. Lila leaned against her side, eyes fixed on the screen but clearly listening to Hannah's heartbeat. They trusted her. And slowly, so did he. Later, once the kids were in bed, he found her in the library, reading one of his wife's old novels. You like old romance? He asked, teasing gently. No, she replied, but she underlined things. It feels like she's still in the room when I read them. He sat down beside her. Not too close. Just close enough. She used to underline every quote about broken people being worth loving, he said. I never understood why. Maybe because she believed it, Hannah said quietly. Do you? She didn't answer, but she didn't look away. It was a strange comfort, this in-between space they occupied. Not quite friends, not lovers, but something sacred all the same. A shared grief language. Neither of them had spoken aloud before. The next day, Harrison found her outside, crouched near the rose bushes. She was helping Owen catch a caterpillar in a mason jar. The sunlight caught in her curls. Her laughter rang soft and low. And in that moment, she didn't look like someone who had ever held a weapon. She looked like someone who had been fighting for peace for far too long. That evening, after dinner, as they cleared plates side by side, Harrison turned to her. You know you don't have to stay. I know. But I want you to. She set the plate down, her hands still wet with soap. Why? Because this house has felt hollow since my wife passed. My kids were surviving, not living. I was drinking, numbing. And then you—" He paused. "You didn't just save us from those men. You woke something up." She swallowed hard. "You don't know all of me, Harrison. I don't need to. I just need you to stay real." For the first time, Hannah looked unsure, like staying might be more terrifying than running. It started with a phone call. Detective Morales again. Harrison was in his office reviewing legal contracts when his cell buzzed. "We ran a deeper scan," she said. "Hannah Thompson doesn't exist before 2017. Not under that name, not under any alias. Someone wiped her records, professionally." "You're telling me something I already know," he muttered. "You might think you know, Mr. Briggs, but there's more." She hesitated. "We traced her prints unofficially. Overseas database flagged her, a field operator for a private defense group known to be involved in black market raids, off-the-books missions. One went bad, really bad." Harrison's stomach dropped. "You're saying she's dangerous?" "I'm saying, whatever she told you, that's the sanitized version." That night he didn't speak to her. He couldn't. The warmth that had bloomed just days ago snuffed out. He replayed every moment. Her silence, her skill, her secrets. And suddenly it all felt like manipulation. The next morning, he asked her to meet him in the garden, alone. She showed up, hands in her coat pockets, eyes already knowing. "You spoke to Morales," she said before he could. "She says you're not who you say you are." "I never said I was someone I'm not," Hannah replied softly. "You lied about your past. I protected it." "You were part of a black market defense group, Hannah. That's not protecting, and that's hiding." There it was. The shift, in his voice, in his posture. She was no longer a woman who saved his family. She was a risk. "I trusted you," he said bitterly. "I let you near my kids." Her heart cracked. "And I never hurt them." "But could you have?" Silence. A long, thick, unforgiving silence. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "I never asked to be part of your life, Harrison. You kept me here. I stayed because I saw something broken. Not in your house, but in you." "Then maybe you should have stayed gone," he snapped. The words landed like a slap. She nodded once, slowly. "I see." She turned to leave, but then she stopped. "You said I woke something up in you. Maybe I did. But if this is what it turns into, suspicion, fear, then maybe it wasn't worth waking." She left the garden without another word. And this time, Harrison didn't follow. That night she didn't come down for dinner, didn't read with the kids, didn't sit in the sunroom. Her room was dark, her door locked. And for the first time since the robbery, the house felt cold again. Harrison poured himself a drink, stared at the glass, wondered when it got so easy to push people away, even the ones who had already saved him. Hannah didn't leave, but she packed 2 duffel bags, no more than that. She placed them neatly by the edge of the bed, folded her uniform, and sat on the edge of the mattress with her hands in her lap, like a soldier waiting for orders that would never come. The room was quiet. The whole house was quiet. No knock from the kids, no check-in from Harrison, just absence. Down the hall, Harrison stood by his bedroom window, watching the garden where they'd fought. She had been right. He had invited her in. He had asked her to stay. And when her truth arrived, he shut the door in her face. He looked over at the bookshelf, at his wife's romance novels, one still open on the end table, her underlined phrase glowing under the lamp's light. "We're all hiding something. But that doesn't mean we're not worthy of being seen." He sank into the armchair, ran a hand through his hair, exhaled. Why did this hurt so much? Because she lied? Or because he was finally starting to feel something again, and now it was slipping through his fingers? In her room, Hannah stared at the clock. 2:07 a.m. She should go. She'd always known it would end like this, that no matter how many lives she saved, people would still see the fighter, not the healer, the danger, not the woman. But then came the knock. Not loud, just hesitant. She opened the door slowly. Harrison. No words, just him. Standing there, in a t-shirt and pajama pants, his face tired, his eyes softer than she'd ever seen them. I shouldn't have said what I said, he started. She said nothing, just waited. You didn't betray me. You protected me, my kids, this whole house. But you still don't trust me, she replied, voice low. He hesitated. No, he said honestly. But that's not on you. That's on me. I'm the one who doesn't know how to let people in. That landed like a weight between them. He stepped forward. You don't have to explain more. I don't need your full story. I just need to know you're still here. For how long? She asked. For as long as it takes me to stop being afraid of feeling again. Her eyes welled, not with sadness, but something deeper. A moment passed. She stepped back. You should get some sleep. Can't, he said. Not until I know you'll still be here in the morning. She didn't answer, but she didn't close the door either. She just turned, walked to the dresser and quietly put the bags back in the closet. The morning light filtered softly through the high windows of Homewood Estate, touching the walls like it too had been waiting for this moment. For the first time in weeks the air felt still, not heavy, not haunted, still, like the exhale after a long buried breath. Hannah was in the garden, kneeling quietly among the rose bushes. No children this time, no chores, just her, trimming away the dead things so new things could bloom. Harrison watched her from the kitchen window, coffee untouched in his hand. Something about the way she moved now, slower, more present, made his chest tighten, not with fear, with something dangerously close to hope. The kids rushed past him, running out the back door barefoot, laughter trailing behind them. Lila shouted, Miss Hannah! Miss Hannah! Look what I drew! Owen held up a crayon-scribbled picture of the family, and there she was, right in the middle. Later that afternoon, Harrison stepped out into the garden. She didn't look up. You really should fire me, she said with a soft smile. I considered it, he said, hands in his pockets. Then I realized I'd just be replacing someone I couldn't forget. She stood slowly, brushing dirt from her knees. What do you want from me, Harrison? Nothing. He paused. Everything. There it was. No games, no pride. Just truth. I don't know how to be in a life with someone who's walked through fire, he continued. Then stop trying to fix me, she said gently. Just walk beside me. He reached out, not for her hand, just a gesture, an invitation, small, bare, brave. And for once, she took it. Fingers, hesitant at first, found his, held, not tight, not desperate, just enough. That evening the estate staff gathered for dinner, together. No formalities, no roles. Harrison cooked, badly. The kids laughed until they cried. Hannah passed out slices of pie. And when Morales dropped by for one final check-in, she stood at the door, took in the warmth of the scene and smiled. No threats here, she said. Not anymore, Harrison replied. Later that night, as the house fell asleep, Harrison stood in the hallway outside Hannah's room. He didn't knock, just stood there, listening to her soft hum through the door, an old lullaby, one she once said her mother used to sing during storms. Maybe this was one, or maybe the storm had passed. He whispered, almost to himself, You knew they'd come, and you didn't warn us. Not with bitterness, not with blame, just remembering. But you saved us. All of us. He turned to leave, but the door creaked open. Hannah stood there, robe tied loosely, hair down, eyes soft. I didn't warn you, she said, because I knew if I did, I might have to run again, and I didn't want to run this time. Then don't, he said. I'm tired, Harrison. Then rest, here, with us. She didn't answer, but she didn't close the door either. Inside the room the light spilled across the carpet, warm, inviting. She stepped aside, He walked in. Not a kiss, not passion, just presence. Two people, scarred, seen, staying. And outside, the estate stood strong. Not because it was guarded by gates or men with guns, but because a woman who had every reason to leave chose to stay. Do you believe true love can survive even after being tested this hard? Would you stay if every part of your past told you to run? Tell me in the comments. And if you've walked every step of this story with us, don't let it end here. Subscribe for every story that deserves to be felt, not just watched.